What's up guys, my name is Lex Veldhuis and welcome back to another episode of Poker Coaching. We're gonna jump straight in and it's final table time. Every hand's revealed, learn how to play final tables, learn how to play with money jumps and money bubbles. Let's just jump straight into it. It's 5K for first in the 5:30 marathon. 5 out of 9, 3 people paid. These are gonna be big money jumps. 2300, 3400 and 5200 top 3. Love it. Let's see. What do you think is your percentage of getting in the money? 20. There's not a whole lot of stats that I just know, but that one I do. So funny how your hand gets demoted so hard because now all of a sudden you have flushes, Jack X to call with.
And let's pick things back up. So how do you think about raising the small blind?
I go like, I probably limp up to like Queen 9 suited, Queen 10 suited. I start raising my King high suits for value. And then I mix these pretty much, like the King 9 off, King 10 off, Queen 9 off, Queen 10 off. I mix these pretty much.
Okay, so I mean, like the main idea that I have is that the small blind has a difficult time playing like the suited middle of the deck. So what's that mean? Well, the small blind doesn't really want to raise and get jammed on and then have to fold, right? So the small blind's kind of cognizant of having too much equity and then having to do that. So at 30 bigs, like I don't know how much I really want to raise a hand like, you know, Queen 8 suited or Jack 8 suited or like even Jack 10 suited or something. Or like Jack 7 suited. Like these middling hands where if I get 3-bet, it's like, oh, fuck. I just don't want to have that type of equity very often. That kind of sounds like I want to be polar. It just means I want to be, I'm also trying to avoid that a little bit. So that I'm in this kind of pre-flop dilemma where I don't want to be polar because I don't want to raise the small blind with trash because the big blind has a positional advantage and is going to call. So if you just raise with trash, that presents obstacles for you because the big blind is going to call a lot. At the same time, because we're somewhat short, I don't want to raise like too far up the middling block and then get jammed on. So what I end up doing is I end up raising with like some of the suited bottom, like you know, like a 9-4 suited, which is not 9-5 offsuit or like, you know, not 10-4 offsuit or something. I don't raise with that. So I raise with like the suited bottom, which is like a little bit more playable. And then I don't raise with the offsuit with the suited middle. I raise with the offsuit middle. So I don't raise with like Queen 7 suited. I raise with like Queen 7 off. I don't raise with Queen 8 suited. I raise with Queen 8 off. And then this hand kind of fits into that category of like the offsuit middle. And then I raise with like, you know, both the suited and offsuit top, but more dense the suited top. So I raise more with like Ace King suited, Ace Queen suited, King Queen suited, King Jack suited, than I would with their offsuit counterparts.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that's the way I move down the tree. So I probably use a decent amount of raise here. I don't pure raise or anything, but I do a decent amount of raise.
Yeah, I literally just mix these 50-50.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a fine strategy, to be honest with you. I was kind of explaining how I do it, but I think just mixing this off 50-50 is totally fine.
Actually, kind of would have liked maybe even a bigger bet on these kind of boards because I think that on these like offsuit with 2 low cards, I think that he's supposed to mix from the big blind like a lot of 3x, 4x offsuit, right? So him checking pre actually gives him less of a claim to this board, less coverage. So that I think that, well, actually that means that we don't necessarily have to bet big, right? Because we're gonna get a lot of auto folds.
So this is one of the boards where I'm probably checking range actually, which is a little bit different than what you were doing.
It's like I'm like, how much do I bet?
So as far as like, you know, key inputs for why I want to bet, why I want to check range is I usually try to start off with like, you know, some kind of macro strategy orientation, which you know because you and I have worked together for a while. So I kind of want to think about, okay, like what does this situation look like broadly speaking, right? So like across all flops, what does this situation look like? Across all flops, generally speaking, at 30 bigs, I think at 30 might be 40, but at this stack depth ish, you want to see, generally speaking, like a 70% small blind check with a with a 30% bet. Okay, so that's across all the flops. So if I don't know what to do, probably gonna check because I start off with like a 70% macro strategy check. Once I move past that, it becomes important to look at the extremes, right? Which flops bet, which flops check, like pure, right? Which flops bet pure, which flops check pure. Almost no flops will bet pure. The flops that will bet the most will be like king, 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 queen, 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 jack, 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 etc. And then after that, it'll be like high card paired boards. So ace, ace, king, 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 queen, ace, ace, jack, etc. So the really high card boards are bet pretty aggressively by the small blind. The boards that are checked the most are boards like deuce, deuce, six, 3-3-4, 6-4-3. So the low card boards. Okay. And then within the ace high block, if you have an ace high flop and you check, which ace high flop is it? It's ace deuce 3, ace 4-5, ace 5-3. It's an ace high low board. The ace high boards that are bet a lot again would be like ace king queen or ace king 7 or something like that. So this with the two low cards, and then the high card below a 10 is going to be. I just know it's going to be like a really high frequency check board. I don't know that it's going to be range, but it's going to be like if you said guess, I'd say it's like 90% plus check. So given that, I would just check here with range because like I'm not going to try to nail an 8% bet. I'm just gonna fuck it, just check everything. So I would just check. But you stabbed, and I don't think this is like. I think this is defensible. I think this is the type of board that like. If your opponent sucks, he's probably going to fold too much, which produces high frequency betting strategies. Like if this player is really weak, he just won't defend enough of his range, and then like you can start betting a lot. But if this player is like pretty good, you should just be checking range here. So
okay,
yeah, seems sort of defensible. Like seems pretty like reasonably defensible. I don't think barreling's bad, but checking seems good too. And I would certainly bet and not check. Although it's like kind of close because you can probably check raise this river, but if I'm checking, I'm check raising. So fine. This is cool. So why did you introduce the 3x here?
I don't think it's because there isn't a situation where I'd have to fold against the big blind, so I don't want to make the pot too juicy for them to shove if I can't call. But since he's on 6 big blinds, I feel like I take away a lot of his equity realization from a short stack strategy perspective by making it this much. And I think that if I pick hands that I can either comfortably fold versus a small blind or comfortably call, then that strategy works out for both players. And I think that 6s I can comfortably call if he shows.
Okay, I don't disagree with anything you said. So fine with all of that.
Love those.
Yeah, so it looks pretty good.
All right, so this is the last table. I mean, it's weird to call it final table when we're not in the money yet. That's why I keep saying last table like some noob. But
sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so like, to be completely honest, I haven't studied like tons of 3-handed final table. That's where the cash is, like ICM models. So like it feels weird to be like on the final table and start thinking about, okay, how do I say this? Normally I look at I guess 50% of the field left is where ICM starts to kick in, but like you usually don't have like super high equity risk premiums if you have like a 2x plus multiple of the field that cashes. So here, like 3 players cash. So like 6 players cash, you definitely expect like some steepish ICM. But like 9, I don't know. But it feels weird not to say that there's not a lot of ICM like on the final table when there's these are the guys that are going to cash. I don't know. So this is not like an ICM. I just want to point out before I like embarrass myself a little bit. This is not an ICM model that I'm like super comfortable with.
Yeah.
Where I know everything about like how this is going to work. So full disclosure, there's going to be some ICM mistakes for me if someone's like contrasting my lines with a ICM calculator later. But like BBZ got it wrong. It's like
yeah.
I don't have a calculator.
Don't worry about that.
Yeah, I don't have a calculator in front of me. So how are you thinking about peeling in these situations? Like what's going through your mind?
So I think I want to be very careful with like 9x and 10x suited hands because they block where the pre-flop bluffs are coming from people. I think that maybe with Hello Totti a little bit less because they're chip leader, but that also puts me a little bit in the bin post-flop. Like obviously it's a bit hard playing against that stack. But I think I should be very careful playing too many hands like Queen 9 suited, King 9 suited, 10 8 suited, 10 9 suited, that sort of stuff. Because that's actually the range that I want them to have.
Okay, so I would say like the main, like I don't disagree with what you said too much, but like the main idea for me is like it's really tough to equity realize post flop with bluff catchers in ICM adjusted situations, and fortunately for me, actually, like it's already getting steep. So we actually left the the earlier one where we were like 9, whatever.
Yeah, you
We
shouldn't have
actually
said
left that.
anything.
Yeah, now this is already more comfortable. So, and that's because Miss Oracle's now quite short, right? So like this player is basically busto. So now, like this is getting kind of like to the bubble because now there's basically 7 players left, right? Like there's 7 left, 3 cash. So this is getting to like kind of steep ICM-ish territory. So for sure here, this is a fold. And I'm very comfortable with this fold. But the main idea that you kind of want to walk away with with this, I don't know, I think that makes sense, is it's real rough to bluff catch post flop. It's gonna be like real rough. So like a lot of the stuff that you could flatten chips, you just can't pull off here at all. So I like the fold here. Looks good to me. So that's kind of why I said like Miss Oracle is so basically down and out. Now he's gone, right? So
Yeah, I wasn't lying.
yeah. And we've got like even stacks with these 3 stacks. We're opening into 2 chip leaders. Like we're gonna be pretty snug opening into the guys that cover us. So I like the 5-6 suited fold here, particularly with the stack depth. So it's good to me. Pretty clean strat. So how did you think
Don't
about?
mind the jam here, actually.
Yeah, I was gonna ask like how do you think about building the 3-bet strategy component now?
I think we're jamming some of the suited aces block. I think we're 3-betting non all in at some pip the offsuit ace X block. But yeah, I mean, I want to go very from the blinds if I want to show aggression versus people. Obviously this guy covers us both, so he has less ICM worries, and I think we want to go very heavy on the ace X King X block. When we attack, button opens from big stacks. So therefore, I think this hand is great. I think that they also, the fact that they have to fold like ace 9, ace 10 off is like fucking great for us. Probably, I'm assuming he has to fold ace 10 off when we jam in this scenario. So, huge win there. Block a lot of his strong calls. I think we want to be very careful with a suited ace to 3-bet non all in and have to fold if they jam. So that's why I prefer jamming.
Okay. So I actually think this is super close, and I in this particular situation I do like the call. But a lot of what you said is correct. Basically, in the vast majority of ICM adjusted scenarios, your 3-bet bluffs will come from suited ace X hands. The difference with this one is that the button or opening range is just so weak. So in this situation, I think most of your 3-bets will come from the offsuit ace high block. If you're on the small blind, I think that it would still come from the suited ace high block because the small blind just can't play as many hands, right? So the big blind's still playing like a lot of hands here, whereas the small blind won't be. So because of that, I think that a lot of the like that combination of factors, like the weak opening range, you still have to play a lot of hands. So you're going to take the ones that are kind of better and take those into the flop, and then the ones that don't realize equity post flop very well, like more of the offsuit ace X block, you're going to probably 3-bet that more. So here I do like the call, but if you're in the small blind with this hand, I would I'd prefer a 3-bet. If you're on the button and like the what is this, the hijack opens, I would prefer to 3-bet this hand. So for the most part, I would prefer to 3-bet this hand, but not in this exact scenario. In this exact scenario, I prefer a call here and have like a7 off or something if I'm going to 3-bet. So make call, pretty standard. I can't see this bet size, which is kind of annoying. 1 second. So it's 2100. Pot grew by 2100. So the bet's 2100. I'm just going to call. We check, which is reasonable, obviously. Okay, we have like a super buff catcher. We also block like where some of the value is coming from, which is like to say if we value at the river and this player thinks we're bluffing a lot, maybe they'll call with like a pair of 7s, which would make sense to bet the flop and check the turn with. So blocking a pair of 7s kind of sucks. So this is like a decent hand. If I'm going to check an ace, like this is a good one to check, I think. So I don't mind the check here. And the bet here is 9,000. And this is like your super bluff catcher, so unfortunately we kind of have to call. I feel like you're going to lose a lot though. But basically, like the idea would basically be something like ace7 is better than ace6, ace5, ace3, and ace deuce. Ace7 is better than ace8. Even though the kicker doesn't play, it's probably still better than ace8. It's probably not better than like ace10. It's definitely not better than ace10. But having 3 pair essentially is like a super bluff catcher, right? Because you block pocket 7s, you unblock bluffs. So typically having 3 pair is like very difficult to fold unless the bet's enormous, and it's just not enormous. So I would just call. But I would fold
Oh,
like maybe some equivalent hands to this, right? So I think it's reasonable to fold like ace six, ace five, ace three, ace deuce. But I think three pairs are very difficult to fold. It's just it just puts you in a different category relative to
yeah.
your other ace x bluff catchers. So yeah.
I think also because of his flop bet is so small, I think that a relatively big part of my range is intact, regardless of the scenario that we're in. And then this hand is just pretty good in that range, right? Um,
Yeah, I mean, it's even against a small bet, it's gonna be tough for you to like hero call this flop with like a bunch of crap. But you still have like busted king tens and things like that, and like king
yeah.
queen. You still have that stuff. So yeah. Okay, so it looks pretty good. I like opening this hand. This is like more resilient open, so it looks pretty solid to me. Uh, yeah, I think you have a tight opening range. And I'm going to be betting this hand. But I think it sucks to see bet a lot into this player's range. I think you want to generally adopt like a more polarized posture, but this is a bluff. So even in a more polarized posture, this bet still makes sense. So I like betting. I'm going to be betting small, not big. That's fine. Hold there looks pretty good. So you folded an ace X hand here. I just want to hear like like about saying it's bad. I just wanted to see
Yeah.
you explain kind of
Yeah.
what's
I'm
going on.
folding like super. I think especially if you look at their relative stack to the table, they have a ton of pressure, and the three big stacks are behind, have position on them, and yeah, I just don't really see any merits. Like there's even going to be a lot of ace high boards where I'm going to have to fold turns, I think, in ICM scenarios. So um, I think I'm going to be like probably three bet bluffing ace nine or something, and then flatting ace 10, something like that, and then folding ace 8.
The only like that seems reasonable, especially the fact that you identified that this player's range is going to be quite strong, and that this is like a reasonable candidate for folding. So that was good. I would three bet fold this hand like at a decent amount, and I think that a lot of players don't really know that that's a thing that exists. A thing that exists is three bet folding into like shorter stacks, like 20 big blinds, 18 big blinds. But basically, when you have equity risk premiums, the fold percentage, like the ROI on the three bet's like a little bit higher, just because I mean, it's not really much higher because the EV of this is still zero. But like basically, what happens is the fold percentage for this player is higher. It's harder for them to realize equity when you three bet fold.
So the way I go about that is if I three bet versus earlier positions and make it a bluff, I'd rather have some, because their range is going to be tighter and they're going to be more defense. I'd rather have a suited ace, and I will usually do it versus the chip leader because of their super wide opening range, um, and I feel like I'm going to get a shitload of folds because they're. I think that if you put a guy like Hello Totti in that seat, and obviously there's two 90k stacks, so it's a little bit different than other final tables where there's a really big chip leader. But let's say there's a really big chip leader and there's a bunch of 30 35 big blind stacks, and you have a guy with like 50 60, then yeah, I think they're gonna be opening even like lost hands like king 7 off or something, right, or king 8 off or king 9 off, and I get all these like auto folds with hands like this. So I usually don't target the 50, let's say the 17 to 25 big blind stacks with these kind of three bets.
uh, yeah, I think that like this is this almost comes down in terms of like how someone thinks about this to like language, the language that someone uses here to describe the action. So I don't like to think about it like I'm targeting anybody, because I'm not like I'm not really trying to I'm not targeting this guy. It's more like um it's very difficult to bluff catch post flop. ICM adjusted. We know that. Like I mentioned that earlier. And the same line of reasoning does in fact apply here. So if you three bet to like 3x this player's bet size, like you don't even have to three bet to 3x. You can three bet to like 14,000. If you three bet to 14,000, which is under 3x here, and this player opens what he's supposed to be opening. So that includes hands like king queen still. Like this player doesn't just fold king queen because they're a little bit short. So this player opens king queen. That hand, even though it's getting a good price, not a great hand to try to drag into the flop when you three bet to 14,000 here. Um, King queen, king jack offsuit, same thing. Ace jack offsuit obviously crushes ace deuce. Ace jack offsuit, not a great hand to call and drag into the flop. Ace 10 offsuit, same thing. This player should actually, and like this is where some players, Sam might digress a little bit longer. Some players might think that they can call a lot here, this player should probably at this stack, when you 3-bet, should probably play shove or fold as a counter strat. He probably shouldn't call with much at all. Like, if he has king queen suited, he should just say fuck it and jam.
Yeah.
So like for the most part, this player does not call a lot. Because this player doesn't call a lot, you can kind of 3-bet with these types of hands. At the same time, what would you do if you had aces? If you were in your shoes, you're just gonna jam. You gonna flat.
No. Yeah.
You gonna flat?
No. Well, I think flatting. I mean, specifically aces. I think flatting
Yeah,
could
what
be
would you do with kings?
introduced.
What would you do with kings?
Yeah, kings. Kings. I would just make it like 5 bigs. So 12.5k, 13k.
Yeah. So you do what I do. So then you have to.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna do that with kings, then you have to think about how to do that when you don't have kings. And the thing is, in my opinion, this player shouldn't really flat very often when you 3-bet. So when you 3-bet with kings, I agree that you shouldn't shove. You shouldn't shove, but this player still shouldn't really call. They should mostly, if they're studying a lot and figuring this out, they should mostly be shoving or folding at this stack as a counter strat. So when you have kings, if he has ace jack suited, he should probably jam. When you have kings, if he has like pocket nines, he should probably jam. He shouldn't call. But if this player is going to use a 4-bet or fold strat when you have kings, then when you 3-bet bluff to offset pocket kings, you should do it with blockers because he's not going to flat anyway. So if you're going to 3-bet with blockers, you probably want ace 2 off because you can profitably flat ace 2 suited. So that's the way that I would think about it. So
I see. Yeah, I see where the mistake is.
Okay. Do we want to just wrap it here for today, and then we'll pick things up on another day?
Yeah, sure.
Cool. Awesome.
Okay. Thanks a lot, bro.
Yeah, sure. Man.
All right, and that's it for today's episode. I really hope you enjoyed that. Lots of knowledge there about ICM spots, and of course, we're going to continue with it next time, and we're going to go all the way to the win, showing every hand. If you have a question, drop them down below. If you want to look for BBC, his links are in the description. He has an amazing training site, and you can find lots of info for very cheap prices there, so make sure you check that out. And of course, if you appreciated the video, make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.